welcome to Word Hole Media presentation of Major League A-Holes. I am Pete.
I'm Ryan. You're in the hole with Major League A-Holes, episode 167. We've got the Crosstown series to talk about. Cubs swept the Sox kind of predictably. That's actually going to lead to our badass of the week and also our asshole of the week. A lot going on in that series. There's a lot going on the South Side in general. We've actually got more Pope talk. I thought we were done with that, but I don't think
Me
that's
too.
End.
No.
It's here to stay. Also, one thing we did not get to last week was Rick Hahn was on the MLB Network and kind of did a tell-all 5-minute interview. He packed a lot of information in that 5 minutes. I would have liked to have a longer conversation, but kind of shocking, or kind of confirmed everything we were talking about at the time and what's going on. So we'll break that down. My Tigers have a lot of injury news that dumped yesterday and this morning. Actually, most of it's good. Some of it's bad. Reese Olson on the IL and a bunch of guys coming back, though. So break that down. It used to be called the Bay Bridge series out in the Bay Area of California with the Giants and A's. But, of course, the A's are no longer on the other side of the Bay Bridge. So I don't know what they call that series anymore, but that was a rather predictable one, I guess. We'll break that down. And then we'll finish the show with a surprising Aesthetics, a new City Connect uniform that might get some positive reviews. We'll see. So I think with that, we might as well go ahead and jump into the news.
Well, I think one thing we learned about the Sox and the Cubs out of the Crosstown series, two things we learned. One, God still likes the Cubs better than the Sox, despite the Pope.
Yeah.
But two, I mean, honestly, like you said in your opening, it was predictable in that the Cubs are a better team. The wind was blowing out, and that just helped fueled an already pretty incredible offense.
Yeah.
I unfortunately did not get to see a lot of the series like on TV. I watched probably 4 innings of game 1 or 3 innings of game 1, if even that, and then was the rest on the radio.
Yeah.
But one stat I did learn because of the radio, and I'm sure this is covered on TV, Darren Jackson had brought up the stat that, the Sox can't afford to give away runs in this series because if you look at the two teams and going into the series, the Cubs had scored like 105 more runs than the Sox had the entire season. So
Yikes.
Obviously the Cubs, have a pretty prolific offense at this point in time. And it came through. Like, can I just say this? And then obviously, I mean, to me, the key moment of the series came in game 1 when Matt Theis, our catcher, the White Sox catcher, dropped a ball for a sure out at home plate that really could have changed the complexion of that game because Shane Smith struck out the next batter and the inning's over. And it's a 2-1 White Sox lead.
Instead of snowballed from that moment on.
Yeah, it was Shane Smith's ERA actually went down after that game by 0.03 because he got 1 earned run because of that error. So,
but there was like 5 runs in that inning, I think.
6. I think it was 6 runs in that inning. So,
Yikes.
Yeah, there were definitely moments that seemed like the Sox players, it was almost like too big of a stage for some of these young guys playing in their first Crosstown series. I don't know.
Yeah, because there's a lot of defensive errors. That wasn't the only one. Just everything kind of snowballed. I think you guys had a lead at least in 2 of the 3 games at one point, and then
by scoring in the first inning.
Yeah, and that was it. So yeah, I have to admit as well, I did not see a ton of it as well either. Because the Tigers are playing at the exact same time, like all 3 days. They're basically overlapping. So I was like, well, I've got this on the iPad. I've got the Tigers on the big screen. So and then the games kind of got out of hand later on. So I was tuned into the Tigers a lot more. So yeah, I mean, it was men against boys. It was kind of predictable. If you had played a clean series, I think it would have been very interesting, but that didn't happen. I think you're right. The weather played a factor. When the wind's blowing out, the Cubs offense is definitely built to take advantage of that. And they did. So I guess the most interesting thing came out at the end of the series, Sunday's game. There was a little bit of fireworks and a little confusion, at least. I was watching that part actually on TV on our marquee network, and Miguel Vargas got hit by a pitch by Brad Keller, kind of up in the shoulder, and I didn't, just stupid. Cubs are going to sweep the series. They're up by 4 or 5 runs at that point. Didn't seem like there was any reason for animosity or what the hell's going on. It's just a bad pitch, hit him in the shoulder. Apparently, there's a lot more going on with that, and it's at least I got introduced to it from Matt Spiegel on Spiegel and Holmes and the Score yesterday. They were breaking it down. Like, well, I didn't think there was much happening because the Cubs broadcast didn't really understand or didn't say much about it. Didn't really understand what was happening, but apparently there's a whole saga, and you know more about this than I do because when I brought up Brad Keller, you knew about his history with the Sox. What was the tidbit you gave me?
Yeah, so when he pitched for the Royals, he plunked us pretty regularly, and
Okay.
it finally reached a head when he plunked Anderson. It was like April in 2019, and they suspended him 5 games for it because it had become excessive at that point. So
this is a long history with Keller and the White Sox then. 6 years, Jesus.
And it continued. He didn't get suspended, at least for hitting a White Sox player, but the plunking between the Royals and the White Sox getting plunked by Royals pitchers in that time frame, and Keller was there for a considerable amount of years, was quite high. So there is a history. I believe even went somewhere else before the Cubs and ended up plunking a White Sox player like a year ago or 2 years ago. I didn't get that information, but the big one was finally, after multiple plunkings of White Sox players in a series, he plunked Anderson and was suspended for 5 games. So
okay.
And Anderson was kind of baseball's darling at that point in 2019.
Yeah, he was going to be the face of baseball and everything. Yeah. It was kind of his coming out party around then. So yeah, that was. I remember that now. I didn't remember that it was Keller, but that's some interesting backstory. There's a lot more going on than I realized. And Spiegel and Holmes pointed out, actually, it's ironic, or not ironic, but he Spiegel did some investigative journalism in a text chain with his buddy Len Casper, who is your text buddy as well.
Yes.
Maybe you should text him, get some more information about it. But Spiegel is actually in a band with Casper, Sonic 45, I think they're called. So they're tight. But I guess DJ, second mention of DJ in this show, pointed out in an earlier inning, the Cubs were not happy with something that Miguel Vargas did. When PCA was on third base, there was a sacrifice fly. Somehow Miguel Vargas got in between PCA and his sight path to, I think it's Luis Robert that caught the ball in the outfield, kind of obscuring his vision, so he didn't really know when to take off from third base in the sac fly, which I've never heard of that before. It seems logical, a third baseman, if he's, it's just some gamesmanship.
Yeah.
I just had never thought about that, never occurred to me, but I guess the Cubs were pissed off about that. I know Quentin Berry, the third base coach, was kind of jawing about it. That found out later. So I guess that's the genesis of this. Well, several layers. I mean, you've got the history, and then this small incident. It seems kind of a ridiculous thing to get all butthurt about. But the greater context with Keller having a history with the White Sox and really a history of being an asshole, throwing a 95-mile-an-hour pitch to Vargas' shoulder just because he had hit a home run earlier and gotten PCA's way. I think we might as well nominate him for Keller for our asshole of the week.
No argument here. Yeah, he's an asshole. He is just an asshole probably on a daily basis. And they probably said if it was some sort of thing, like, he probably took it. He's like, I like plunking White Sox players. So,
well, he had like a smirk on his face after it. Just like, I don't give a fuck.
He's a dick. He is a dick. He's a fucking asshole. Huh? Like you just said, not dick of the week. He's asshole of the week.
Yeah, he's asshole of the week. That's why we've got this platform and this brand. It works out perfectly for shit like that. But I'm doing this in reverse order. What we talk about. Yeah,
that's all right. But it plays well.
It still works. The aforementioned Miguel Vargas also happened to be AL Player of the Week for his exploits against the Reds earlier in the week and a really good series against the Cubs, despite the sweep. So I think by rule, any League Player of the Week also has to be our Badass of the Week.
This may be the only time this happens.
Yeah, it's amazing. You've got Vargas's stats there. I think it's
Yeah.
a well earned AL Player of the Week and Badass of the Week.
We got a 4 home run, 9 RBI, only 1 strikeout over that period.
Yeah, that's big.
And a slugging percentage of 1289.
1289 plus his OBP. I didn't do the math on that.
I mean, an OPS of 1289. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I got it.
Screwed that up.
So yeah, I think well deserved. It's interesting though, because I happen to look at PCA's stats over that last week, and they're actually really similar, except for one glaring weakness. I think you've got those over there too.
Yeah, 3 home runs, 11 RBI, a stolen base. His OPS is 12, like 14 something over that period, 1462. Yeah. But one thing that was glaring was he had 11 strikeouts.
Yeah, he's still striking out a lot, but yeah, when he doesn't strike out, he's hitting the ball with power. So yeah, he had 1 fewer home run, way too many strikeouts compared to Vargas. He was not going to win our Badass of the Week.
But a very, very fucking good showing.
Yeah, it's still a hell of a week. And it made me wonder, like, how did PCA not win NL Player of the Week? And then you look at Cincinnati's Will Benson, who benefited from playing against the White Sox earlier in the week, I guess. Put up just ridiculous numbers, like an 1850 OPS over the week, 5 home runs. So that part makes sense. But we almost could have had dueling League Players of the Week, and then what would we do for our Badass of the Week at that point? I don't know what we do.
We start we're going to like OPS plus, BABIP.
These are problems we did not anticipate at all.
We're drilling down to I don't know.
Yeah, I like the BABIP. Like, who's got like, it's a penalty if your BABIP is too good.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out if we ever do actually have this problem.
So funny you should mention it. Armstrong's BABIP is insane. It's like 553 for the week. And his OPS plus over that period is like 167, where Vargas's is 223.
Jesus.
So those are some those were things, if we came down to it, I think that those are things you have to maybe look at. I hope that's a problem here, honestly. I really do.
Well, Vargas was such a disappointment for you guys getting traded over. He didn't do hardly anything last year. I don't think he did much in the first month. So to have him like kind of really breaking out like this has got to be encouraging.
Well, yeah, it is. I talked about it last week on the show. Marcus Timms made a switch to his how he gripped the bat, basically. And since that time frame, he went from having like basically I think it was like an 88 OPS plus and like a 180 batting average or something like that, to what over the last 28 days since he's basically done that, his OPS plus is 173.
Yeah, that's working.
Yeah. And the great news, the thing that makes me laugh a lot about this is the Dodgers couldn't fucking figure it out. And that's why they traded him to us. Because, obviously they have a wealth of talent in their organization. So they were like, I don't know, it's just not clicking with this guy. We tried. You guys can have him. They felt like they were getting a steal by trading Vargas with part of that Kopech deal. But in the end, the White Sox may have the last laugh. And defensively at third, he has turned into like a very solid third baseman this year. So I don't know. All signs are pointing up there too. So remain optimistic on the Sox.
Well, that's all I've got for the Crosstown series, but there's a lot more shit going on with your fucking White Sox. You keep leading the show. There's so much going on, but
yeah, I think we'll go into Pope Notes next. I think that's our new segment, Pope Notes.
It might be every week. I got to come up with some imaging and an intro for that.
Or maybe we'll call it White Smoke. I don't know.
Smoke?
Yeah. But Pope Notes this week, they unveiled yesterday before the game in section 140, which was around where the Pope Bob sat for game 1 of the 2005 World Series. I was in attendance there too, just about 5 sections over from
that's right.
Pope Bob, and probably about, I don't know, 15 rows back. But
he was Father Bob at that point.
Bobby, Father Bobby. They put in, and I'm relieved that it wasn't an actual mural painted on the brick, but it's a graphic installment of the Pope that looks like a cross between what he looks like and Emperor Palpatine, pretty much. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? They just put a mural of the Pope up outside of section 140.
Yeah,
we are taking this to a new fucking level of weirdness as far as I'm concerned.
Their internal graphics department is hard at work. They didn't take them long to put that together and have that installed. It's ridiculous. I thought when you mentioned something along those lines happening, I think I misinterpreted it, but I thought they were gonna I think they did identify the exact seat he was sitting in.
That's coming.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just one caveat to that. Brooks Boyer was interviewed about, of course,
Chief Marketing Director
was interviewed about he's like, hey, the Pope has a open invite to throw out the first pitch. Heck, maybe we'll even let him get an at bat. So yeah. There you go, Brooks Boyer. But
the Sox have definitely sold their soul to the Pope. I mean, they are like the official Catholic organization of Major League Baseball at this point, aren't they? I mean, they have leaned so heavily into this.
Yeah.
Are you going to have to take communion when you first come into the ballpark now? Like, what are we doing here?
I don't know. I mean, if it's with onions and a Polish on it, maybe I'm game. Maybe they should have Kumas come in and do the ghost burger, the burger that had a communion host on it for the bad ghost.
God. Yeah, that's coming. That's coming for sure. I think they might change their name to the Catholics. OX.
The Chicago Catholics?
Yeah, I'll work on that logo, actually. That might be a
What about the
shortly.
Chicago Pontiffs?
I like that, too. Pontiff is a great word. Papal.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we could do this probably for another 30 minutes, but let's move on. Outside of this mural, there has been word that they are going to do something to actually commemorate the actual seat itself.
Okay.
So I don't know. I had an idea. I have a crazy idea
I've got
here.
Ideas. Go ahead.
I think it should be a graphic of a Polish with mustard dripping off of it on a hot cross bun. Thoughts?
Okay. I like that. That's far more elaborate than my ideas. I was just going to turn it, have a special seat. The seat would just be red or, whatever, contrasting from the green seats there. But maybe a gold seat. The Pope seems to wear a lot of gold.
Yeah, gold or white.
Yeah. So there's one golden seat in the sea of green.
Yeah.
I think that might be what they do. It's like a throne or something.
Yeah. I mean, do they just call it, or maybe they just put
the papal throne?
The Bob seat.
Yeah.
Bob. You have to prove your name's Bob to sit in the seat going forward.
Put his maybe a graphic of him sitting, so you could actually sit on Bob's lap, kind of like Santa.
Get your picture with the Pope. The whole row gets shut down.
Brooks Boyer is hard at work on all of these ideas. He's way, way ahead of us. So,
well, it doesn't stop there though, Smitty. It doesn't. It just.
Oh God.
This is the last thing, and okay. I hope after this we can take a little break until we see exactly how the seat is commemorated. But there's going to be a Pope Day here in the city on June 14th, and conveniently the Sox are out of town, so they're going to host a mass.
Oh, that's right.
at the field
Yeah.
on June 14th, hosted by Chicago Archdiocesan in celebration of the Pope being part of this archdiocesan and from Chicago. They do believe signs point to that place it'll probably be the only sellout of the year, but
Oh my God.
it'll be for the Pope. The event details real quick. We held at Guaranteed Rate Field on June 14th. Celebration of Pope Leo. The program will include music, film, speakers, and prayer, culminating in a mass. Capacity for the event is 40,000.
Wow.
So
this seems a bit much. I mean, we've been joking about it, but isn't there like a danger that they're going to alienate other religions or people of different creeds?
Their Jewish owner?
It just seems like there should be a separation of Church and Sox.
I mean, honestly, I always said the reason the Sox got killed by the Tigers on the inaugural day of that ballpark was because in 91 they had a priest, a rabbi, a Greek Orthodox priest, and there may have even been like a Lutheran priest on the freaking field blessing it. And I said,
you got to pick a lane.
Yeah, you got to pick a lane, man.
I guess they have.
Yeah, now they are. They're all in.
Jesus.
Didn't help them this weekend at Wrigley, I'll tell you that. No. Or last night against Seattle, 5-0, but.
Oh, boy. Yeah, are you still in Chicago or is that in Seattle?
No, we're here. We're here. I don't think they're going to play today. And the chances of them playing tomorrow are pretty slim, so that's going to really fuck up with both of those teams' schedules because.
Yeah, that is not an easy one to make up.
No, so we'll see. We'll see what happens, but. Yeah, but so that closes the Bible on today's Pope Speak.
You can put your scriptures down.
But peace be with you.
But with you.
In more interesting news, and we didn't get to cover this last week, mainly because dumbass over here forgot to watch it. But we had a pretty full show anyway, so it's probably better. Rick Hahn last week went on MLB Network and was interviewed by
Brian Kenny. I forget the name of his show. It's usually a stats show, but
he took 5 minutes and 33 seconds to be exact to interview Rick Hahn and ask him basically what the fuck happened was really what it was about. And they
correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember any interviews of any type with Rick Hahn since he was relieved of his duties. I don't know that he's spoken to the media at all.
I agree with you. This is first. There was I think him and Kenny both issued statements, and that was it.
Yeah, cordial boilerplate, nothing revealing. But he really got into what was happening, what his failures and everything else. And it's amazing because it's all stuff that you and I were talking about at the time, and it's pretty clear what was going on.
Yeah, so I pulled out some key highlights and quotes and stuff like that.
Nice.
One thing I just want to open with, it was very clear that, it was very clear after listening to him that him and Kenny were fired because they were a team, and he pretty much expressed that at the beginning of the interview that he made a comment. I can't remember who it was. Someone on MLB Network made a comment. I think it was about a GM needs to do these 10 things. And he said, not any GM is good at all 10 things.
That was really, it was 14 things that somebody had listed.
That's it. 14 things. And he said,
no one's capable of being great at all 14 was his point. And I like that.
So he said, you have people you lean on in the organization to pick up your inadequacies. And he's like, I'd like to think that when we won the World Series, I helped Kenny with that when he was GM, blah, blah, blah. But the first thing they get into is La Russa. And Kenny asked Rick if...
Oh, Brian Kenny.
Brian Kenny, yeah.
Confusing.
I'll just say Brian. Brian asked Rick if he had unilateral decision-making, and he kind of tiptoed around that for a second. He said, well, on bigger things, obviously it was a consensus, but on other things, I did have, unilateral ability. And then they got into La Russa, and he says, it was not my unilateral decision. It was a consensus. And he had a little smirk on his face when he said it.
That's a pretty obvious one that, I mean, everyone speculated at the time. It looked like, I mean, when that introductory press conference came about, it looked like Rick Hahn was about to throw up.
He looked seriously like someone had passed.
Yeah, well, or I think at the time I mentioned, it looked like he was in a hostage crisis video. Like they're forcing him to read a statement against his will. Like, so that one was pretty obvious. It was the way he worded it. It was, at least in this interview, it was pretty obvious that we were all correct.
Yes,
this was not Rick Hahn's decision. That was a pretty obvious one. He did a nice job of not throwing anyone directly under the bus.
Maybe you should add a little like chime and a check mark. Our belief that Rick Hahn did not want Tony La Russa as manager has been confirmed.
Ding 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 ding.
Check. Yeah, I kind of remember the hostage crisis. That's pretty funny. I'm very excited today to present the new manager of the Chicago White Sox, Tony La Russa.
Oh, you remember at the time they had graphics that leaked that had AJ Hinch's name, like his signature in the background.
I know. What a difference that would have made as we're seeing in D3.
Thank you once again, White Sox. You have paved the way for Tigers' greatness, in addition to giving us your great broadcaster, Jason Benetti. Thank you.
Then they transitioned into 2016, the turning point, the rebuild starting. And Rick kind of shared a funny little story when he had hosted the interview. I forgot that season. They started out 23-10. Mainly, as he pointed out, because the team was playing well above their means, and Matt Latos, who they had gotten off the scrap heap from San Diego, I think it was, had he had something like insane, like a sub 1.5 ERA in the first 5 starts. And he even says, he's like, so the wheels begin to come off and the season turns.
The way he worded it, he didn't mean it this way, but I felt like he blamed the whole demise of his career on Matt Latos. So it was like wheels came off because of Matt Latos.
If Matt Latos had just performed as he should have, shitty, none of this would have happened. We would have been able to start the rebuild even sooner, like in April. But he talks about the famous interview where we took his favorite quote, mired in mediocrity. And he told what I thought was a funny story that Scott Reifert, the head of PR, literally called him out and said, "Why did you have to use alliteration?" And Rick said, "What do you mean?"
Yeah, he didn't know he even said it, but it was such a perfect quote that idiots like you and I could jump upon and use for decades to come.
Yeah, he said, all anyone's going to remember from the entire interview is mired in mediocrity. And that's all anyone did remember.
You're correct. Ding, 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 ding.
We were right again. He also talked about something we talked about forever with the White Sox, and we've talked about it with the Giants too, that, after 2005, they had success. 2006, which I agree with them, was a better team on paper. And the AL Central is completely hot that year. I mean, the Sox won 90 games and didn't make the playoffs. And playoffs hadn't expanded at that point to what they are today. So, in the new format, they would have made it. But they kind of petered out at the end and didn't make it. And then 2008, they again won, made the playoffs. And they had enough success to where they made a mistake of not looking future forward and kept doing short-term gaps to
and that was the story of the Sox for 100 years at that point.
Right. And they lost sight of it, and everything culminated in 2016. So they do the rebuild. Again, just hearing them say it, I know we do a podcast that, whatever, for fun. We do a podcast for fun, but it is nice to hear.
Certainly not for money.
Yeah, definitely not for money. it costs us to do this podcast, folks.
It's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. But to hear like things you and I talked about and said from the XGM of the White Sox, it's kind of nice.
I mean, it kind of validated everything we were talking about
Yeah.
at that time. We knew exactly what was happening and whether they would say it or not at the time. So yeah, it's very, very validating.
Now, this next part I'm going to cover is probably going to be Smitty's favorite portion, because this is a debate we had about paying players based on projections versus performance. And he talks about, Brian Kinney asks Rick about, you win 93 games in 21. What happened after that? Like what happened with your team? Of course, Rick goes on and points out, well, we made the playoffs in 22.
Yeah.
Good or bad. Maybe it was bad that we made the playoffs that year because it kind of hyped up expectations prematurely. But Rick, very honest response. We obviously overestimated in our players' growth. We took some bets on some young players that would grow into the projections that box us in from a payroll standpoint. And those are like the Mikata contract. In fact, we could probably name that entire. And everyone
knows.
Yeah. So
that was my argument at the time. Like, what does this gain you to lock these guys up before they've done anything? And what the risk involved seemed to far outweigh the reward, which is exactly what happened. And it's like, and he recognizes it and put it far more succinctly than I ever did. But I was right. I'll take the victory lap here. I think we knew that long ago, but to hear Rick Hahn say the exact same things is kind of amazing.
I think he said it perfectly too. He said we took a bet, and it's true. Yeah. You're taking a bet. You're looking at these projections that all these brainiacs have done, all the sabermetrics, the trend of a player with what their ceiling is, and you said, well, fuck, I'm not going to have enough payroll to sign these guys when they all hit their ceiling, so I'm going to get them into these player-friendly contracts now, unless they're never on the field, injured. Yeah.
Or and when they're on the field, unmotivated after getting a ton of money.
Yeah, that too. Whatever it is. I mean,
could be anything. All of that at the time, the wrath of Hahn. Everything he touched turned to shit somehow. I think it was a bad strategy, but he had a lot of bad luck involved with that too, which the bet clearly did not pay off.
And the biggest indictment comes as he talks about the huge fall off really happened because the White Sox clubhouse culture changed, and they went from a winning culture to, he didn't really define what the culture had. He just said it changed and it moved away from a winning culture, and the clubhouse kind of turned into a mess.
He's certainly not going to use derogatory terms or point fingers at that point, especially in a 5-minute interview. But that's probably the key to it. Like, what changed in that locker room and how it affected everything going forward. I think it's clear if he wanted to, he could say we hired the wrong fucking manager and fell apart from there. So
twice.
Yeah. Exactly. It's
back to back.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing. He said it was a 5-minute and 33 second interview. It felt rushed. I was annoyed watching it because Brian Kenny had to kept cutting him off, but you got so much content in that tiny interview. I am dying for a long form sit down interview, maybe even a written piece, just to let everything come out. Because Rick Hahn didn't hold back. He wasn't being rude or derogatory, but he didn't withhold information.
Right.
In that interview. So I'd be fascinated, even a 20-minute interview, how that would look. So I think there might be more coming from Rick Hahn, as this is the first time he's stepped out into the public. I don't know why he's talking now. I don't know if that was discussed. Is he potentially looking to get back into baseball? Like, what is he getting his name and face back out there? I don't know. I don't know what all that's about, but it's going to be interesting to follow at least.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. I don't understand the timing of the interview it sounded like Brian Kinney had asked him on the show, and
Is this
because
the
he says
first person that asked him to be on the show, on their show? Like what?
I guess maybe
Or just
because
enough time has passed and now he's ready to talk, or who knows?
yeah, because of the Pope. Who knows? The fucking
Everything comes back to the Pope.
it all comes back to the Pope
I
now.
almost spit my water out there.
I can't wait to see what kind of delectable Pope treats are going to be available at the game.
Okay. The sacrament. I mean, isn't that what they have to? I think we covered this.
Maybe I don't know. I mean, next time I go,
Yeah.
I'll be on the lookout. Maybe one day I'll finish that video review of the corn dog I ate
Hopefully.
before the season's over. Anyway, on that note, why don't we just hang out in the AL Central and talk about some winning baseball?
Well, we can finally stop talking about your goddamn White Sox for a second and talk about the best team in baseball still, my Detroit Tigers. Like 2 or 3 weeks running, they still have the best record in baseball.
Dang.
They had a tough night last night in St. Louis.
They did.
Of all fucking places. But they had a winning weekend in Toronto, winning 2 out of 3 there. Tight series, actually. It was a really good series, a pretty evenly matched. Toronto's better than I realized. Tigers prevailed. Torkelson had a big weekend. He actually accounted for all 3 RBI on Sunday. They had a home run on Saturday. So I was going to say Torque owns Toronto, or Torcanto, they now call it. But the big news out of that series, at least, was Reese Olson pitched a gem. Was it Friday or Saturday? I can't remember. But he left the game after 6 innings, which didn't seem unusual. But apparently he had like a cramp in his ring finger that has now led him to the IL for 15 days. Right now they're saying he's probably just going to miss 2 starts. They're not too concerned about it, but you never know. I don't like that. But what I do like is all the other injury news for the Tigers, which really hit them hard at the beginning of spring training, and they're just now getting back from. As tonight, Jake Rogers is returning from an oblique issue. He will be behind the plate tonight for a Turk Skubal start in St. Louis. So that's really good news. We've got Parker Meadows news. He's coming back for a rehab start in Toledo starting tonight. He'd be eligible to come off the 60-day IL on, I believe, Saturday, if that's the 24th. So that would give him almost a week of rehab starts, potentially be up with the Tigers this weekend, which would be huge news.
Huge.
Casey Mize has been on the IL, but he threw a simulated game at Comerica Park yesterday, 5 innings, and looked well. So I believe he might be back this weekend as well, which would be huge with Olson headed to the IL. He pitched actually to Rogers, Parker Meadows, Wenzel Perez, and Matt Vierling, and Jake Rogers, I think I said, in that simulated game. So those guys are all on their way back. I believe Matt Vierling is starting a rehab assignment, or has started a rehab assignment in Toledo, and could be back next week. Wenzel Perez is like our 3rd string center fielder, kind of a utility outfielder. He's on his way back as well. So lots of good news, lots of health on the horizon, despite the loss of Reese Olson, which is just kind of a bummer. And then going into last night's game showed that they had to, they had an opener and then had Cadell Montero pitch, kind of the old recipe for pitching chaos that worked so well last season. Did not work at all last night as they went down. They're getting blown out 5-0 at one point. Then there was a rain delay, which was just annoying. I flipped over to the Cubs game during that, and then I looked up and saw they'd come back from the rain delay and got blown out even more. It was 11-0 at one point. I think the game ended up 11-4. So kind of a bummer of a night. Oh yeah, I flipped over to the Cubs game in time for them to blow the save against the Marlins.
Yeah, that was a weird game. I was watching it.
That was another annoying. So I was kind of pissed at baseball last night, and then heard that Reese Olson got hurt. But the injury news overall is very good for the Tigers, so I feel much better. Felt good going into this podcast today. That's all I've got for the Tigers. If we want to head over to the Bay Area, your Giants took on my fucking A's. Didn't go so well for my fucking A's.
No, they scored a total of 3 runs.
Yikes.
at San Francisco. The pitching staff for the Giants pretty much manhandled them. The Giants scored 13 runs, but 9 of them were in one game. So as you pointed out when we were
the other two games were
close.
Yeah, the other two games were one run games. So
yeah, so but one of the games was a shutout, and the other one was I think 2 runs scored, 3-2 was the last game. Of course, the Giants won on like a last at bat or something. I know that's shocking.
That's what they do.
That's shocking. But because of that series, the chaos continues in the NL West. Let me break this down for you. We got the Dodgers, who are on a 4-game losing streak, which gives them a half-game lead over the Padres and a game lead over the Giants and a 3-game lead over Arizona, who are collectively, as those top 4 teams are collectively like 32 games over 500.
Wow. That's a fun division, man.
Yeah. So, and the hottest team out of all this is the Diamondbacks, who are 6-4 in their last 10, where the 3 top teams are 4-6 in their last 10. So anyone at any moment, I feel like it's going to be sort of like a chessboard and just trading positions maybe throughout the season. But at the same time, if anyone gets on a burner, they could maybe pull away and give themselves a little bit of breathing room. But I mean, the Giants continue, like I said, to beat up on teams that they're, above.
They should be beating.
Yeah, they should be beating. And the question is, are they going to be able to, beat these other teams in their division, which would ultimately, the way it, has gone so far, be their demise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
keeping it interesting.
They went into KC. They hosted KC last night and lost that one through. In fact, I don't think there was a win for this entire podcast last night.
No, I meant to mention that. Yeah, I did the standings this morning and realized everyone lost for the first time all season. So yeah, 0 for 5 last night.
Yeah, not a good showing. Not a good showing at all. And now when you, that triggered a thought in my head, which is going to be completely off topic in a way. But you brought up the Cubs game last night, and Charlie graduated last night, and
graduated 8th grade. Yeah,
8th grade.
Congrats.
Yeah, yes, it happened. He got out barely, but
on high school. Wow,
on the high school. But we went and grabbed dinner afterwards, and I'm in a Southside bar where I'd normally be watching the White Sox game, but because they don't have a cable package that carries Chicago Sports Network, I was viewing the Cubs game, which is why I know what happened in the Cubs game.
Oh, okay.
It was like going on, and I was finishing up dinner and saw the end of it. So that I just wanted to bring that note up that the bar landscape is a little bit different now. When you go out, you might not see a Sox game right now because of how shittily this has been handled. And I haven't brought this up, but I'm going to now since we're talking about it and it makes sense. And then I'll shut up. But
it's your podcast too.
Their app blows. It is the worst fucking app. And
same thing happened to me when Bally's Sports Detroit started, when that whole fiasco last year, when they were off cable completely. Their app sucked, and that's now FanDuel Sports Network.
Okay.
I haven't had to try that. I switched over to Fubo, which just has that channel on it, which Fubo is not. It's not terrible. It's not great, but it's certainly better than the Bally Sports app. So they probably have the same developer working on the Chicago Sports Network app.
I mean, there was one game. The Cincinnati series. I had to restart the app like 7 times.
Ugh.
The screen would just go black, and the only way to fix it was it wouldn't come back. You had to reboot the app entirely, and I'm like, one of them was it was actually during the extra fucking innings game, and Andrew Vaughn's like having this key at bat, and I almost fucking miss it completely because I'm rebooting the fucking app.
Yeah, that's my summer last year. It's ridiculous. We have the technology. These apps have one job, and they can't even do that.
Yeah, your job is to deliver me the content I pay $20 fucking bucks a month for.
Yeah, that's the other part. Yeah, they've
to
landed
watch
on
the Sox.
Yeah, they've landed on this $20 a month fee, and it's not worth a fraction of that. But
no, I don't even get to watch the other shitty Chicago teams. That's $40 a month to watch them all.
oh, is it? It's another. Oh, wow! It's on. Yeah, they didn't do that with or at least Detroit's version of that. So.
Oh, well, that's nice. Let me tell you what else sucks about it. Not only for the $20, also limits you to just watching White Sox. So you can't even watch like Molly and Haw in the morning unless you buy the $40 package.
Oh, wow.
They're just dicks.
Nickel and diming you to death.
Yeah.
Wow. Yikes.
So, all right, now I'm done.
More White Sox shit. It's just oozing out of this podcast. You can't contain the White Sox.
And shit is that segment for sure. Shit.
Yeah. Well, I think with that, we can move on to our final segment, our aesthetics.
Oh, this is a dandy.
Yeah, the Boston Red Sox released their Nike City Connect 2.0. I don't know if you recall their first jersey. They were actually the first to release any Nike City Connect 4 years ago, whenever it was, to which I was baffled. I think everyone was so confused. They were bright yellow and light blue, which makes no sense until you learn the larger context. It had something to do with the Boston Marathon, like what the start and finish line looks like or something. Made no sense. So it's time for them to release 2.0, and I think they actually did a pretty fucking good job.
Yeah, I mean this could very well go down as the winner of the year.
Yeah,
this one.
They leaned into the green monster motif, which the Sox are most famous for. Probably one of their defining characteristics is their dumbass ballpark, a miniature golf course. But the green monster is a centerpiece of that. So they just decided to design the uniforms right around what the wall looks like, which as a graphic designer, I think is a really cool idea because you see the monster. It's definitely got distinct graphic characteristics. It's got of course, the green. It's a special shade of green. It's kind of a washed out 120-year-old green color. And then the markings for the scoreboard and different aspects of the wall itself got all incorporated into this uniform, which I think they did a pretty damn good job. So I think you've got the full breakdown over there.
Yeah, they actually named them the Fenway Greens is the name of the uniform.
Okay. I would have called them the Monsters. But.
The Monsters. All right, let's start at the top because as you know, we got, just so everyone's prepared, we have 6 things to talk about that are explained. So,
all right, I'm ready.
Red Sox word mark, the hand-painted lettering of a monster plate with Red Sox proudly worn across the chest. So,
yeah,
across the chest, it looks like the lettering on the scoreboard.
Yeah, it's kind of a plain sans serif font. It matches what's on the monster. It's not the typical ornate Red Sox arch. It looks really clean. It makes sense when you see it.
Yeah, totally. Monster plate numbers. White hand-painted numbers that are hung each inning, complete with a notch.
Yeah, I didn't realize this. Like the actual numbers that they hang, much like the Wrigley Field scoreboard, you have to, they have to have a notch to actually hang on a nail or a hook or something. So that they built that into the numbers on the jersey is just a small design element. I think that's just, as a graphic design dork, I love that kind of shit.
Yeah, I mean, something subtle like that, that's really kind of fucking cool.
Yeah.
The B patch, which is, I think it's on the left sleeve. The right circle B derives from the unique H and E scoring lights on the Monster.
Yeah, it takes that same simple sans serif font. It's just a B with a circle around it. I thought that should have been the hat logo. The hat they have is just a green version of their typical hat with the B that everyone's familiar with, just in white or an off white. I thought this circle B could have been their hat logo for a totally different. It looks great on the sleeve too, and I thought maybe what they did put on the hat could have been on the sleeve. Then either way, it's fine. But
yeah, I think that's a good call. I think it would have made a cool looking hat.
It would have been different. I mean, you don't see Major League hats with a circle around the initial letter. So,
foul line yellow, or like I like to call it, the fair line. The perfect yellow accent to Fenway, from live scoring to the pesky pole. The
Yeah.
yellow is meant to call visual attention on the field and now on the kits.
It does. They did a really good job with that, and they said, it's an accent color basically. If it was just a green and white uniform, I think it would be pretty boring. But the splash of the bright yellow is I believe it's the small front of the jersey number,
Yeah,
and
right,
the Nike
exactly.
logo.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of yellow, but it's just enough, which is kind of like the same ratio that you would see in the ballpark. Tons of green on the walls and just the foul poles. You definitely see the yellow, but it's not overwhelming. So I think that ratio they got right too.
Balls, strikes, and outs. This is the trim on the sleeve. 3 green lights and 4 red. The illuminated lights of a full count and 2 outs at Fenway.
Yeah, they're literally the like little sphere, half spheres that stick out of the wall that have light bulbs in them that indicate balls and strikes. It's clever. It's not really necessary, but is that the jock tag or is that?
Oh no, I don't know. You know what? It doesn't say where it's at on the explanation, and now
Okay.
I'm looking at the jersey, and it isn't the sleeve. I bet it's on the inside of the collar.
Okay, that could
That's
be.
that's what I'm going to go with, because these fuckers didn't tell me. Oh no, 1912's on the inside of the collar, which I'm about to get to.
I bet you the lights are the jock tag, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, maybe it is, but it usually says like jock tag.
They love saying jock tag.
I
didn't
know
know what a jock tag was before this whole Nike City Connect thing.
I agree.
I didn't know that what it's called. I knew I had seen them, but I didn't know there's a term for it. So
1912 collar, as I just mentioned. The interior of the collar bears a concrete heather pattern mimicking the interior structure of the wall, same as it stood in 1912.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool too.
2 years older than Wrigley Field.
Yeah, I've got no explanation of where these lights
we can move on.
Are going. We're going to stay on this segment till I find the lights.
Just let go.
Where are the lights? Inferno lights. That's the owner of the team in The Natural, in case anyone was wondering.
I see.
Or I give up. I can figure it out later. I gotta tell you, like, I wish this wasn't a Red Sox jersey.
You what? Oh yeah, fuck the Red Sox.
I would probably fucking buy one. I mean, it's badass.
Yeah, they're real clean, simple. They don't, they're green and white with some yellow accents, but they don't look anything like an A's jersey. They got the colors right, they got the proportions right. The simplicity, I really like. The simple font does not look like anybody else's jersey, but you can see how it immediately is a Red Sox uniform, as opposed to their previous Nike City Connect 1.0. After having such a terrible first version, I think they knocked it out of the park on this one. So I'm going to give this 2 middle fingers up. Well done, Bo Sox.
I'm going with you. I'm riding along with you. 2 middle fingers up. I think you knew that was coming, though.
Yeah.
I could barely contain myself.
Boy, 4 middle fingers up. 4 out of 4 on this. So that's our first one in quite a while. We've had a lot of 1 or 0s over the last few weeks. So this is a about face. I think you're right. The only downside is it's such a good jersey, but fuck the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Nike. I don't even know how many there are left. They usually do these early in the year. There might be a couple coming. We've done a ton already, so there might be a couple more in early June, but or maybe this is the end of it. If that is, they're heading out on a positive note. So well done.
Yeah, you think they're going to wear that other jersey though on Marathon Day? I bet they will.
They should, I guess, because that's the only way it would make sense in context. Or I could see if they were only going to keep it for one game, they might just retire it completely. But I don't know the ins and outs, or I don't know if there are limits to how many different jerseys you can have at once in your rotation per year. I thought it was 4, but I don't know why that rule even exists or if that still exists. So hard to say, but I'll be okay if those go away forever.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I could see them at least wearing them that, or even that weekend of when that.
Yeah, that would make sense at least.
Hopefully the White Sox are
not playing
playing that fucking game ever again.
You don't have a good track record in games that start before noon. So
no, they party too hard, those White Sox players.
Well, I think with that, we can wrap up this episode 167, unless there is more White Sox shit or Pope shit you wanted to talk about.
Hold on.
Does the Pope shit in the woods?
Shit in the wood. No. He shits on the gold throne.
Golden throne, you're right.
Jeez.
That was my Lebowski reference for the day.
Yes. Maybe there will be the urinal he peed at.
The golden urinal, yes.
There'll be a golden urinal around section 140. That's what they need.
That's further down the line, but that's definitely happening. That'll be something they pull out when the fervor has died down. Oh, the Pope's urinal. Well, that's got to happen.
You know what's probably going to happen at some point? There's going to be a Pope statue. They love statues.
It's got to happen. Yeah.
It's got to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's a given. So.
Maybe as you enter the park, giving the sign of the cross.
Yeah,
blessed thee.
Yeah, I think we are done.
All right, let's end this show.
Okay, thank you. Mercifully. With that, you can find us on social media at Major League A-Holes. Pete's over there on X at Sox Type Thing. You can find us on YouTube at Major League A-Holes. Check that out. Hit the subscribe button. We've got over 300, I think we're up to 313 subscribers. Check us out over there. You can find us on the web at majorleagueaholes.com. And you can find this podcast anywhere you'd like to find a podcast. So with that, I am going to declare this podcast is over. Peace.
Peace.
Be with you.
And also with you.
Word Hole Media.